What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Golf on Tap. Today, we'll be getting into our final bets for the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am 2025, second of 8 signature events on the 2025 PGA Tour schedule. If you're joining us right off the rip, make sure to hop on over to YouTube. That way, you can interact with us throughout the episode. Let us know who you're tailing, who you're fading, your best bet, all that good stuff in the comment section. Go and subscribe to Golf on Tap as well, wherever you may be listening to your podcast. I'm Jack Bushman, here with my partner in crime, Joey Knows Nothing. Joey, we're on the stream. That means it's final bets time for the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. How you doing on this Wednesday night, my guy?
Good, man. Good. Yeah. It's a fun time of year. So I'm really looking forward to next week, but I'm looking forward to this week. I don't love the whole celebrity feel to it.
Yeah.
Like always. I mean, we've talked about it like past years. That's not one of my favorite aspects of this tournament. So, but it's a beautiful landscape. So I think that's like where you can still pick and choose like what you're really watching for. The landscape of it, the way they do the aerial shots, like it's just a beautiful course. And then of course we got some heavy hitters this week. So yeah, man, there's one boogeyman and the rest of the field, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you mentioned it. The boogeyman, Scotty Scheffler, back in the field. Xander Schauffele is not, still out with a rib injury, but Scheffler making his first appearance this season, coming off of off-season hand surgery from a crazy ravioli cooking accident. Signature event. So we got all the big dogs at Pebble Beach. And Joey, out of all of the signature events that the PGA Tour does year in and year out, the one that I agree with being a signature event the most is Pebble Beach, because you mentioned it, the beautiful landscape, the cliffs right on the ocean. I mean, it is truly golf paradise. But the problem for years with this event was, it's a Pro-Am, as you referenced. It's fortunately the final one we'll have to go through here in 2025, but also just the timing of this event on the schedule. You got Torrey Pines a week prior. You got the Waste Management Phoenix Open, Genesis Invitational right after as well. Guys, because of the Pro-Am and because of the scheduling, just wound up skipping this event. And you look at, some of the track records for the top guys in this field, they really haven't played at Pebble Beach all that much in their career. So I really do agree with this tournament being a signature event, giving it the prestigious field that it deserves. And you referenced kind of the beginning of golf season here. Once you hit Torrey Pines and once you hit Pebble, the CBS broadcast takes over and you get some really cool visuals of some excellent golf courses. So definitely excited for the action to get going on Thursday. It is an interesting course though, Joey, as we were talking about prior to recording, because when you look at the signature events that the PGA Tour has on the schedule, I think only Pebble and Travelers are really the short wedge fest type of courses. So you usually see signature events at big boy golf courses. It's a little bit of a different field because of the big names in it compared to what we've seen in years past. And what's throwing a little bit of a wrinkle into it as well, Joey, is the last time we got this as a signature event last year, the first time it was a signature event, it only wound up being 3 rounds and canceled through 54 holes. So we didn't even get to see how things played out in the final round. Not too disappointing for you, though, because you hit a Wyndham Clark 80-1 winner. I mean, that is a number you look back at, and he's almost got the same number again this week. So we'll definitely get into that conversation, but you got Wyndham Clark here. You hit Tom Hollywood Hoagie a couple of years ago as well. You got some good vibes at Pebble Beach, man. So hopefully we'll be able to keep that going this week and cash our second outright winner of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say when we hopped on here, looking for outrights, I was about to say when you said your tail or fade, I was like, don't tail me, fade me, tail Jack, because right now you're kind of on it and I'm not. But you do bring up the track record here, and I do have a pretty decent track record here. So maybe this is where I get back on track. I'm hoping.
Yeah, let's hope so. You mentioned it's been a pretty decent start to the season for me. Last week at Farmers was just kind of wonky because I had Will Zalatoris, I had Gary Woodland. Both of them withdrew like an hour before the tournament started. A lot of guys were withdrawing. It stunk because, we got an excellent tournament, a -8 winner, Joey. We lick our chops for those types of events. Unfortunately, the broadcast and the pace of play was like 6.5 hours long. I don't know if you tuned in all that much. Wouldn't blame you if you didn't. I didn't have anyone in the mix. I was also helping a buddy move, so I was kind of tuning in every now and then. But with all those late withdrawals and a lot of the big names pulling out because they knew they were going to see Torrey Pine South in a couple of weeks again with the Genesis Invitational being moved there. It just kind of gave the event a little bit of a wonky feel. So I ultimately decided not to throw that money back into the tournament. I just rode with my 4 guys. Lee Hodges actually had a phenomenal round 1. He shot 5 under on the South course, and I'm like, oh, baby, Lee's going to the North course tomorrow. Here we go. And then the winds picked up, and he shot like 76, and never heard from Lee in terms of mixing for the win again. I had Keegan. He was kind of there, but honestly, it was just kind of a card I'm okay casting to the side. And other than that, we both cashed the Sepp Straka ticket at the American Express. I had my heart broken by Nick Taylor at the Sonys. I had Nico Echeverria and JJ Spawn, and then I had Colin Morikawa at the Century. So a couple of runner-ups and a win through the first 3 events. Walkie card last week. But I'm feeling dialed in terms of the card this week and what we're looking at. And Joey, just to kind of run through it here real quick before we go and take a look at the odds board for the folks that are tuning in, maybe wanting to know some more information or stats or just what I looked at for Pebble Beach this week. One thing we haven't mentioned yet off the cuff, Joey, is that this is a 2-course rotation, which also makes looking back at metrics and predicting the winner a little bit wonky as well. Not only, though, is it the final Pro-Am of the year, it's the final 2-course rotation. We'll get out of course rotation season after this week, fortunately, but Spyglass Hill Golf Club and Pebble Beach Golf Links are the 2 courses they're going to be rotating at through the opening 36 holes. The final 36 holes on Saturday and Sunday will only be played at Pebble Beach Golf Links. So 3 of the 4 rounds are going to be played there. The amateurs will drop off after Thursday and Friday. Be wary of some slower moving rounds those first couple of days. Got to remember there are amateurs out there on the course. But both of these tracks, quite honestly, are pretty similar, Joey. Spyglass Hill is the longer of the 2, but it's only 7,041 yards. Both courses are shorter than 7,100 yards. You get a ton of short par 4s, 350 to 400 yards. I think at Pebble, there's only 3 par 4s longer than 440 yards, and they all come between holes 9 and 14, I want to say. And then you also get some short par 5s because, again, there are amateurs out there, and I think 3 of the par 5s are shorter than 550 yards, and that's an absolute rarity on the PGA Tour. So you got to be a good wedge player because of all the short par 4s you're going to be having. You're going to be hitting a lot of wedges into these greens. And you also got to be good at capitalizing on those chances and rolling in those birdie opportunities. We saw Wyndham Clark shoot 60 last year, 12 under 60 at Pebble Beach, set the course record en route to his win. So you got to go low. There have been some rumors that the course is going to play a bit firmer this year, so maybe that makes things challenging. But still, these are the best of the best. I anticipate a winning score right around -20. So I'm looking at approach. I'm looking at proximity buckets from 75 to 150 yards, opportunities gained, birdie or better, and you got to be able to make those putts on POA surfaces. Guys who putted well last week at Torrey Pines or have a good history on POA putting surface or on the West Coast. And quite honestly, Joey, I didn't really look all that much at off the tee this week just because this is kind of a club down, hit the fairway type of golf course. Pebble Beach Golf Links does have some wide-ish fairways. They're 34 yards wide on average, so they're wider than what we've seen the last couple of weeks. Most guys don't have too tough of a problem hitting their layup clubs and finding the fairway, and there's just no real advantage to having distance on this type of golf course. It's a second shot golf course where you got to keep the ball in play from tee to green and make those birdie putts. So that's kind of how I constructed the card this week and the key stats that I was looking at when looking through things this week.
Yeah, you're 100% spot on. I mean, it's that second shot type of course. The length doesn't really matter all that much, and that's why you can see some of the guys that have won here in the past or have had success here. It's not necessary to contend by any means. Definitely, the greens are a little bit tougher to hit. So that second shot,
forgot to mention those smallest greens on the PGA Tour at Pebble Beach Golf Links. Tiny.
So you're going to have to be precise on those yardage buckets like you had outlined too, and what you had in your model, as kind of tweaking around with mine too. And that's something that's absolutely needs to be looked at between that 75 to 150 and, probably even definitely that 100 to 150 range. But I POA obviously is a huge thing. How well you putt on POA. I was looking at that this week. around the green game, scrambling, like that's going to be huge, I think, here. Um, that obviously I also looked at some similar courses like the shorter tracks, things like that.
Yeah, I know
I
you had
started looking at like,
Wailea, El Chameleon. I think you had Sea Island in there. Those coastal types of courses where you hit a lot of wedges into the greens make a lot of sense.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, and some of the guys that I'm even betting this week or on my card are guys that definitely fared well at some of those places, or at least, a couple of them for sure. And guys that haven't had bad records at those courses either. Maybe, lesser playing fields than we're going to see this week, which is always something to consider. And if you really do believe that they'll have a shot in a better field, that's always something you have to kind of look into. But, yeah, all in all, it's not like a super hard course, and that's kind of like the one thing that I think for the most part is like the smaller greens, like you said, smallest on tour, and then also the wind, how much that'll impact things too. And I don't know what the case is with that because I didn't look into that. So if you already mentioned that, Jack, I'm curious about that.
I got you covered.
And 17 to 19 over since 2016, 17 under and between 17 under and 19 under since 2016. So I think you're spot on with that. Kind of like 20 under is probably going to be the max that we see as a winner that comes out of this thing. So which is still not as low as last week when we got the -8 from, or the 8 under for Harris English, who came out of, I was not looking at Harris English last week at
I
all.
probably should have looked a little harder at Harris English because he plays big boy golf courses well. He had a good, I believe he finished T5 there at the U.S. Open when John Rahm in 2021, and he did lose in a playoff in 2015. I forget who he lost to that week, and he had a couple decent finishes in the fall. It's not like one I'm like beating myself up over, but in hindsight, 2020, like Harris English at 110 to 1, like that probably should have been a bet. Feels like when I missed a little bit there.
He's a guy that you like to see those larger numbers, and he can pop up out of nowhere too,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't beat yourself up over it either, but at the same time, like it did make a lot of sense in hindsight, just not looking at him necessarily.
The way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But you did bring up a lot of good points that I wanted to touch on real briefly before getting to the odds board as well. You mentioned the weather. Wind and weather fully dictate how hard these golf courses are going to play. As of right now, doesn't look like the wind is going to be heavily gusting or anything too crazy. We're not going to get the severe storms or the severe weather that we got last year. Knock on wood. You never know what's going to go down suddenly in the Monterey Peninsula there, right up against the ocean. But yeah, the wind and the weather are the main defense of this golf course, along with those smaller green complexes. And Joey, looking at some of the past winners, I mean, the guys that you have hit here as well. Tom Hoge, when you won here, what is Tom Hoge known for? His approach play and his wedge game. Daniel Berger, who won here, what is he known for? His approach play and his wedge game. Even Maverick McNeely, who finished runner-up to Daniel Berger that year, known for approach, wedge play, really good on small greens. I just think you got to be a really good approach player to win on this course, because the more greens in regulation you hit, and greens gained is also another statistic that I looked at this week, FYI. The more greens that you hit, the more simple your life is going to be, because those are small greens. You can avoid 3 putts. You're not having super long lag putts all the time. And also, if you're missing the greens, that's going to bring in scrambling into play on these tricky POA putting surfaces where more putts are missed inside 5 and 10 feet on these style of golf courses here, Riviera, in Torrey Pines, the true POA putting surfaces. That's when those putts inside of 10 feet start to become more shaky. So hitting greens will take away from the scrambling aspect. You still got to be a good scrambler to get out of dodge. You're not going to be hitting every single green here because they are so small. Although I do want to give a quick shout out to my boy Akshay Bhatia, because back in 2021, I think he was 17 or 18 years old. He teed it up at Pebble Beach for the first time and was the first round leader and hit 18 of 18 greens. And I remember being like, this kid is the fucking truth. And it's been fun to watch along Akshay.
I don't remember that, but that does not surprise me at all. The way that he came on the scene was,
I think that was right before we started doing the show, I believe. But that was like when I was getting into my hearing about Akshay Bhatia phase, and I'm like, this kid's going to be the truth. Then we both go on to cash him at the Valero Texas Open. So it's been a fun couple of years watching along Akshay Bhatia. But yeah, the small greens approach play, keeping it clean from tee to green. You got to do that to win at Pebble Beach, man. Because if you go off the cliffs, you go wayward, you're going to have a bad time. Cue up the old South Park pizza. I don't know if you know the reference I'm talking about. The skiing instructor who's giving Kyle lessons to go down the hill. He goes, if you French fry when your pizza, you're going to have a bad time. If you go wayward at Pebble Beach, you're going to have a bad time here. So keep it clean from tee to green, hit a lot of greens, be a good approach player. When you do miss, be a good scrambler, and stay sharp within 10 feet on these post surfaces. That's what I'm looking at this week, Joey, but we've done enough talking and breaking down the event. Why don't we go and swing things over to the odds board, my friend?
Yeah, I'm with it. Let's do it.
All right, top of the board as we reference signature event. Let's go 20 to 1 and under. So we got the boogeyman, Scotty Scheffler. By the way, using the odds checker grid as of right now, make sure to shop around and get the best number out there. We always recommend you do so. You want to get the best value for all of these things, especially when you're betting golf outrights, and 12 to 1 and 14 to 1 make a pretty darn big difference. Scotty Scheffler's at the top of the board at 5 to 1, Rory McIlroy at 12, Morikawa and JT both at 14, and then we got Luddy F. Baby and Patrick Cantlay at 20 to 1. Give me your thoughts off the rip, Joey, on the top of this betting board.
Well, I told you off air that I just completely forgot that. Didn't even realize that McIlroy was in the field.
You knew Colin was here. You didn't know Rory was here. Which I don't blame you.
I just didn't even pay attention to him this week, and that could be good, that could be bad. I don't know. So I have no thoughts on Rory this week. Scotty, obviously, funny that the ravioli situation. I don't know. I feel like that was that me? Did my family do that to him? Is that some weird, something that's in the atmosphere going on here, because we've been complaining about the boogeyman forever, and all of a sudden he cuts himself with raviolis. And anyways, but so I'm not betting him at 5 to 1. That's not happening. Could he do well here? Absolutely. And he probably will, and he'll be in the mix. That's just what Scotty Scheffler does. Outside of that, really, I'm not doing Cantlay. I see him probably having a good week, and I just don't see him winning. So that's my quick analysis there. There's those three guys, though, ahead of him. JT, Ludwig or Luddy F. Baby, and Colin Morikawa. And those are the three that I'm most interested this weekend. JT, runner-up most recently at the Amex, 3 top 5s in his last 5 PGA events. I don't think he's far off, man. I don't think JT is. This is not where, we were complaining about him in the past about kind of falling off the wagon for a little bit, and he did. But
he did.
He definitely did. But he's got it back
Dude, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Justin Thomas missed the FedEx Cup playoffs. He was the top 70 player on tour 2 years ago. That's crazy. Crazy.
We both never thought that was happening. So the fact that he really struggled. And so him finding it though now at this point, that tells me that he's put in a lot of work to get his game back. And it's clear as day that he has the passion for this, and is not he's not somebody who is okay with the successes that he's had and just living, kind of resting on his laurels. JT is somebody who wants to win every single time he takes an event or takes a course. So, he's got the 6th place finish here last year. He was second in the model I did. I just don't trust him yet.
I understand.
And I don't know. I probably should. I just trust the guy that's right next to him a little bit more. And so I'm not going to bet JT this week. Morikawa, 14 to 1. If you're looking for a second shot guy, Morikawa is for a second shot golf course, this is your guy. He's as good a pick as any, really. And it was encouraging to me last season, too. I'm looking at how much better he was scrambling and around the green than he was the year before. So he went from 96th around the green to 10th strokes gain around the green last season. Finished 14th at Pebble Beach last year. Rarely misses fairways as well. So yeah, I love Morikawa this week. I'm considering going with Luddy as well here. He's 18-1 where I got him at, or where I'm looking at taking him at. Second place last year in his first ever trip to Pebble Beach. That's very impressive work, because I know that this is one of the quote unquote easier courses, but there's a lot of nuance here that makes it just a little bit different than what your easy courses, even those course comps that I was kind of looking at and put into my model, like, a Seaside or Sea Island course, something like that. Like it's even a little bit more different, obviously, than that. And that plays a lot easier than this course. But that is one of the reasons why I do like him as well, because it's a second shot course, just like that one was, where he got the win. Coastal course. It's a little bit generous on the fairways too, just like the Seaside courses. A lot of shots in that 100 to 150 yard bucket too on that course. I'm not too worried about last week or the recent form, so I'm strongly considering, and I think I can get Luddy over at a certain book with a boosted odds over 20-1. So I'm probably going to do that the more I talk about it. But yeah, Jack, what are your thoughts up here?
Yeah, you bring up a lot of great points, and one of them, the experience here being a big factor. Every winner here since 2006 has posted a T21, a top 21 finish or better previously at this golf course. So those types of nuances that you reference, they definitely matter on this type of golf course, and knowing where to hit the ball. Also, just having experience with these tricky POA putting surfaces in particular, they're a little bit unique in their own right. So definitely some good points that you bring up there. Top of the betting board is very interesting. I'm not going to get to Scotty Scheffler. I didn't bet Scotty Scheffler at 5-1 when he was absolutely lighting the world on fire last year. Right. I'm not going to get in front of a 5-1 right here, right now in his debut in 2025. I expect Scotty Scheffler to mix and probably finish either first or somewhere inside the top 5, because he's just that damn good. He's a great wedge player. He's a great scrambler. The only thing he probably has been able to do over the last couple of weeks is putt. So I have no concerns about Scotty being right back in the mix. He's going to be annoyingly good right off the jump. I fully expect it. I'm out on Rory 12-1. Feels like a really fair number. I actually think there was even a boost somewhere to get him up to 13 or 14-1. Doesn't really have a good track record here, and we just mentioned that matters. He's missed the cut and finished T66. I just don't really see this being a Rory McIlroy type of golf course. Can win, though. I'm out. The three I was thinking about, just like you, Collin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, Ludwig Åberg. Patrick Cantlay obviously has that special course history. He's finished T11, T4, T3, and T11 in his last 4 starts here, but his irons just have not been where they need to be. He's lost strokes on his approach shots in each of his last 2 starts, and that just doesn't feel like a guy who's trying to win right now. And I also just have some questions about Patrick Cantlay's seriousness at this point in time. So I'm out on him at that number, but Justin Thomas, Ludwig, and Collin were the 3 that I was thinking at. For Ludwig, what it came down to for me is that he's had some issues around the greens when he gets into contention these last couple of weeks. I have some question marks about his wedges, and I also just have some question marks about his consistency to get it done against this type of field. And it's going to go away eventually. I have a feeling Ludwig is going to have the Scotty Scheffler effect. Like, once he wins once, they're going to start coming in boatloads because he's just that talented. But I just don't know if he has it to go and take down this field, especially with his iron game not being great right now. Like I said, have some concerns around the green, and he was missing a lot of short putts last week. Now, I know he was sicker than a dog, so that definitely goes into it. And I kept that in mind as well. 20-1 is a really fair number. I ultimately passed on Ludwig, though. The 2 it came down to for me in this range, Joey, were Collin Morikawa and Justin Thomas. 2 guys, not at the same time, but 2 guys I've been riding for the last year in hopes of them snapping their win drought. I thought about Collin. What it came down to for me with Morikawa is he's only played once in 2025 at the Century. Obviously, it was a great finish, and he finished runner-up. And you made a lot of great points about the strides he's made around the green. Like, he's a completely different around the green type of player and putter, honestly, at this stage of his career. And the T6 last year was really good around the green. this course makes a ton of sense for him. I just would like him to have a little bit more reps early on in the season. And I know he's a California guy. He knows how to putt on POA, but he doesn't have a ton of reps. He didn't play the Farmers last week. He's lost around the green in 2 of his last 3 starts, and he didn't really have to use that part of his game all that much, at least out of difficult rough like he'll see this week at the Century Tournament of Champions. So that's kind of where my concern was with Colin Morikawa. But he definitely can go and win this golf tournament. You said it's a second shot golf course. There might not be a better second shot golfer on the PGA Tour than Colin Morikawa. I went with JT though, man, is the way that I went. I'm kind of being a JT slut the last month or two, chasing down that dub, but his game has been so good, as you alluded to, and you made a great point as well. JT is trying to win right here, right now. A lot of these guys are, finding their games or getting their season start. Justin Thomas is here to fucking win. And that's why he played the American Express. That's why we saw him play the Zozo in the fall. 2 runner-ups and a third in his last 4 starts. The irons are back to being absolutely dialed. Around the green is really good. And he's been putting pretty well, too. I know these surfaces are different, but he's gained at least 1.2 strokes putting in each of his last 2 starts. And he gained 2.8 strokes putting in 2 measured rounds at the American Express. Made a really good charge on Sunday. And he's just been grinding, as you mentioned, too. He's added a lot of distance off the tee, which won't matter this week. But I know Justin Thomas is so locked in on trying to win a golf tournament right now, and I think this is a pretty good one for him. Finished T6 here last year in his first start at Pebble in a long, long time. Dropped 2.03 strokes on the putting surface, which, that's always in the cards for Justin Thomas, but I still think he's made noteworthy strides in his game in all different areas. And just running my model, there were so many numbers that pointed to JT. He was first in my model over the past 12 rounds. I went a little bit shorter term this week, but the numbers are so good. First on short courses, second opportunities gained, 4th tee to green, 4th par 4s, 350 to 400, 5th on approach, 5th in scrambling, 10th in birdie or better, 20th in greens gained, and he's also top 17 in all 3 proximity buckets. So a lot of reasons to like Justin Thomas this week. I think he's a little bit more motivated. All these guys come out here and are motivated to play well. They win a shit ton of money if they play well, but Justin Thomas, I think, has that extra chip on his shoulder. I used a boost over at BetMGM, I believe it was, to get Justin Thomas up to 18.6 to 1, which I thought was a pretty fair number, but I was really thinking Colin Morikawa, man. Ultimately, though, it just came down to Justin Thomas has more reps than Colin Morikawa right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a great point, and like he's shown it to us over the recent form here, and I don't think the reps thing is very important. That is something that's very important when you're talking about getting a win. I feel like too, like with JT, and that's one of the things that scares me. But it's kind of like similar to what you're saying about Ludwig too, in different stages of their career, who he's a younger, obviously much younger, and JT has a ton of big wins. But I feel like whenever he gets that first win again, that next win, they're going to start falling in bunches too. So like, and maybe not to the same extent, because I think Ludwig is going to want to play some of the courses that JT might not care about necessarily at this stage of his career as much as Ludwig does. But I do think that because he missed out on the playoffs last year too, like he's going to be trying to win as much as he possibly can this year. And I think he's got a great shot to win this week. I really do. So I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, I really believe Justin Thomas is going to get back in the winner's circle this year, and I wouldn't even be surprised if he does it twice. He's got that iron game rolling, too good of an around the green player. And what I like, too, before we move on to this next range, Joey, is the close calls that he's had recently. And I know he hasn't played all that great in those final rounds to get over the hump, but everything's a learning experience, and I'm encouraged by JT. Obviously I was on him at the Zozo. I would have loved him to win that tournament, but I still feel like those are going to bode well for him in the long term. Mixing again, getting those kind of uncomfortable feelings and those jitters and learning how to play through that type of pressure in the long run, it's going to wind up being good for Justin Thomas. There were just too many reasons for me to not pass up on him this week. But as we move down into the next tier of the card, we'll go We'll go 25 to 50 to 1 because, quite honestly, there's only a couple of guys in this range. You got Hideki Matsuyama at 25 to 1, Sung Jae Im at 28. Never Tommy Fleetwood at 31, your 33 to 1, your boy Jason Day at 35, Sam Burns at 35, and then Keegan and Victor Hovland, who has an interesting track record here, won the U.S. Amateur, won the U.S. Amateur here, was the low am at the U.S. Open a handful of years ago as well, but is a little bit lost. Probably the biggest number we've seen on Victor in a long, long time. Really curious to hear your thoughts on this middle tier range, and if you've got any bets in here, Joey.
Well, Hideki obviously is a great option here. It's too close to if I'm going to bet Ludwig, I can't get to somebody who's, I think, what is he, 25 to 1, he said?
Ludwig or Hideki?
Or Hideki, sorry.
25.
So I don't want to get that close in the odds. But, and Never Tommy is just hilarious at this point. We can never get away from that because, I look at recently, like what he's done, and all the numbers always look good.
Oh, they always do. It's like Russell Henley.
It's like, can you just finish the job, buddy? Like, just finish the job. He's like a construction worker who goes out there, works all fucking day, does everything. He does everything except for just finish and they still get the cones up.
Bro,
and the next day, construction just goes all year from freaking March until all the way through December, basically, and they're waiting to the next year. Like,
do you follow Barstool at all? Have you heard about what's going on with Eddie and the guy who's working on his house? I don't know if you've heard about that. This construction worker's got him by the balls. I guess Eddie paid up front. This guy's just doing a half-ass job and not showing up. That's basically what it is like betting on Tommy Fleetwood. It's like you put down the money up front. It looks good at first, like the project's starting to come together. And then when you're on the final step, it's like all the screws and the nails just fall out and you're back left with shit. And I feel bad saying this because my co-host for our other show, Ross Barron, is on Tommy Fleetwood this week. Okay. But he knows what he signed up for. He is well aware of what he signed up for. But we got to give it to Tommy. Anytime he tees it up, man, never Tommy.
But hey, listen.
Unless he's 70 to 1, never Tommy.
Yeah, no, it's because they keep continually putting him at prices that do not make sense. He does not deserve this based on his track record. I don't care what his stats look like, and no, neither should you. And listen, I hope that it hits for Ross. I don't, because I hope our bets hit or my bet hits.
It's like first and foremost. It's why the cookie crumbles.
But if it hits and he's on it, and it's like, if it's going to be somebody I'm not betting, I want it to be somebody
good for brand. That would be good for the brand.
That would be great. But yeah, just never Tommy. That's enough about him.
Never Tommy.
I do. I mean, man, I did have some interest in Victor, and then you told me about the injury too, and I wasn't paying attention, and too much to the injury. I mean,
I have worse news for Victor too. You should.
What's that?
I don't think you. I mean, it's a good number, is what I will say. It's a good number and a good golf course for Victor's history. Last time he teed it up on the DP World Tour, he got the shanks.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's been bad, and he even admitted in a presser today that his game's not good right now. However, the last time he said that was before the PGA Championship, and I'm pretty sure he finished runner-up. So. And then
he killed it.
So don't let narratives steer you away from Victor Hovland. It's a good number.
No, he's a guy too who maybe he plays better when he just doesn't think he has it either. He just goes out there and he's like, well, this is what I do. You know what I mean? He's kind of like a prodigy that way, where he doesn't need to be. He doesn't need to overanalyze what he's doing. He can just go out there and golf and just do really well. So maybe this is a blessing in disguise. I don't know. But I can't get there just knowing that information. So, you know who I'm going with here. 35 to 1 is where I grabbed him. I'm going to call it a day.
Oh, what a beautiful day.
Oh, what a beautiful feeling. Yeah, no, we got to go with Mr. Jason Day. I'm going to call him, and I told you this before the show, I'm calling him the anti-model play right now this week.
Model hates
because it hates him. And in mine, he's 53rd in what I built, but we know he loves this place. Like, this is just a course for him, third in strokes gained at Pebble Beach out of the guys in this field. I think a lot of the opinion on him too is just due to the past 24 rounds. And he's like you said, he's struggled with the irons like majorly over this last year. So, I mean, now that looks like it's coming back around, and unfortunately the putter has held him back, which is strange for him because that short game is kind of what he can bank on for the most part is, short game putting. I mean, but you look at his last 12 rounds, 13th in strokes gain approach, also 4th in strokes gain putting on POA over the last 36 rounds. So if there's a spot that he can figure out putting again, that's definitely this spot. And so now that we're seeing the irons come back, this is not just a homer Joey pick here, like riding the Jason Day train that never seems to pay me off. Hopefully it's this week where he starts to pay off, Jack.
Man, it would be epic if it was this week, Joey, because I'm on Jason Day as well. Before I get there, though, I did squeeze in Hideki Matsuyama. I'm a little bit overexposed this week, but it all kind of ties back together because I was way underexposed last week, and I'm like only overexposed by like $10, so it's really not that big of a deal. But Hideki 25-1 is a crazy number. It's a crazy number for a guy who was absolutely flushing the golf ball. He gained over 6 strokes on his approach last week at Torrey Pines. Like, big boy golf course. He hasn't lost strokes on his approach shots since the Travelers Championship way back in July. It's like 10 events in a row. He's gaining strokes with his irons, and they're all significant strokes. 6.3 at the Farmers, 1.2 at Sony, 9.2 at the Century, 2.5 at the Zozo, 2.7 at the Tour Championship. Like, he's flushing the golf ball right now. If you look at the numbers in the model, his around the green is a little wonky. That's all because if you have like 24, 36, or 50 rounds, that's all because he lost over 5 strokes at the President's Cup, which, really doesn't matter all that much. This guy is one of the best, if not the best, around the green player and scrambler on the PGA Tour, has amazing finesse game. The only thing that kind of worries me a little bit is the putter with Hideki. Dropped 0.2 strokes last week at the Farmers, but historically, POA has been his favorite surface. It's actually the only surface he's positive on in his career. And whenever Hideki wins a big event that he's never won before, the next week I always go back and think, like, how didn't I bet on Hideki here? Because it always happens at a good number. It always happens when people don't want him. It always happens when he's sneaky in form, and it's always these like prestigious type of events. Like, Hideki doesn't win scrub type of tournaments. In 25-1, no one's talking about him this week. A guy who is as dialed with his irons maybe as anyone on the PGA Tour. He is the outlier, though, I will say. He's only teed it up here once in his career, and he finished T71 last year, so it wasn't good for Hideki. But if anyone's capable of beating that type of curse, it's a non-popular Hideki Matsuyama. So I thought that was a really good number. Too good to pass up on Hideki. But I'm with you, my friend. And this honestly might be the first time together that we're both on Jason Day. So what a cash that would be.
Maybe this is what needed to happen. I needed you to buy into what bullshit I was spewing out of my mouth this entire time.
Maybe that is it.
We can finally hit an outright on Mr. Jason Day.
I don't know if you happen to see the Malbon Mountain sweater that Jason Day was rocking last Sunday, but if he wins this bad boy, those things first off are going to be out of sale. We're going to have to get on that real quick, but we definitely have to buy those bad boys if we hit a Jason Day outright together. But you said it, Joey, a lot of good things out of Jason Day except for the putter right now, which is literally the polar op. All this guy was good for last year was gaining like 6. He gained over 10 strokes putting at the Olympics. Like that is all he could do right last year. Now from tee to green, he's an absolute monster, and the guy seemingly can't make a putt. It's ridiculous. That's what cost him in the final round at the American Express. He had just some missed birdie opportunities and a bad 3-putt late that took him out of it. He dropped over 2.5 strokes putting in that final round at the American Express. He was actually a positive putter on the week before that. And was mixing last week at Torrey Pines, even with dropping 6 strokes on the greens. And you mentioned Jason Day historically slaps on the West Coast. POA is his favorite putting surface, and he's the man at Pebble Beach, bro. 9 top 10 finishes and 14 career starts here. Hasn't lost strokes on these greens in his last 6 appearances. Has only done so once since 2015. So if there's any spot for Jason Day to seemingly flip the putter luck, feels like it would be here, man. And he's always got great around the green numbers. I trust his short game here. And the irons have been absolutely dialed, man. He's gained a ton of strokes with his irons. 3.1 last week at the Farmers, 3.6 at the American Express. Like, he's flushing the golf ball right now. This is a Jason Day golf course. He's even mentioned to the media that he'd trade his top fives to win. Like, all he hasn't accomplished at Pebble Beach is knocking this bad boy down. I love his history on the West Coast. Too many signs pointing to Jason Day. Let's get it together.
I think we're gonna. I think this is the week, man. Like, it has to be. If it's not here, he's not winning all year. Like, I'm not betting him the rest of the year, I think, if he's not winning here.
Yeah,
that's terrible to say, but I'm not losing any more money on Jason Day. That's what it is.
If he keeps flushing, though, you're definitely going to lose some more money on Jason Day the rest of the season.
I know. I'm trying to talk myself out of it.
He's flushing the golf ball right now. Let's just hope it happens this week and it solves all our worries and we can get ahead of the Jason Day money that we'll be throwing back to him the rest of the season. I also got to Keegan Bradley here, 50-1. No reason for me to be discouraged with what I've seen from Keegan. I was on him last week at the Farmers Insurance Open. Striped the golf ball once again marvelously. He just couldn't make a putt. Still finished T15 and has now finished inside the top 15 in each of his 3 starts to begin 2025. And like Jason Day, he's absolutely flushing. Gained 2.3 strokes. I actually just want to go to his tee to green numbers. 3.7 strokes tee to green at the Century, 4.2 at the Sony, 5.1 at the Farmers. So getting incrementally better with each week. I think Keegan could be trending towards something. Off the tee's been phenomenal. I mean, it's all green. If you look at his profile in 2025, it's only 1 week of putting. The rest is green. So all facets of the game have been good for Keegan Bradley. And he's kind of got a sneaky history at Pebble Beach. He's finished inside the top 15 both times. The real kicker, though, Joey, is the putter at Pebble Beach. 1.5 strokes gained last year en route to his T11. 2.04 strokes gained en route to his T15. So he's handled himself well on these greens. In both of his starts here. I obviously have concerns that that'll go away. And if you look at his history on the West Coast, it's like either Keegan's gaining 2 or 3 strokes or he's losing like 6. So he's a very volatile type of putter, but when it goes right, we know what it can lead to. Keegan has the upside, and his second to last win on the PGA Tour, Travelers Championship, elevated event, Wedge Fest, need to make birdies. I think there's a little bit of similarity there. And like Justin Thomas, what I referenced earlier, Keegan's a man on a mission right here, right now, to play himself onto that United States Ryder Cup roster that he's going to captain. I'm sure he won't be too open about it to the media or anything, but you know deep down, Keegan wants to earn his way on that team and just, again, has that extra chip on his shoulder this week, is coming in with good form. Reasons to believe in his putting upside, has good course history here. So I also got to Keegan at 50-1 in this range. 4 guys below 50-1 is a little bit rare for me, but I only got 1 bet outside of that the rest of the way, Joey.
Yeah, so not a whole lot of bombs this week, but
not a whole lot of bombs.
That's okay though. I mean, you found your plays and you're convicted about it, and you got to feel good about it going into it. I don't hate the strategy at all this week. I was looking at Keegan too, and I mean, I know it's your boy. It
is my boy. I
didn't bet him, but like you're looking at the yardage buckets too, where a lot of those shots will be coming from. He's pretty good in that 100 to 150 range, really in general over the last 24 rounds. 12th from 100 to 125, and then 25th from 125 to 150. So, I do think, and then the scrambling has been pretty good here too. So I think this could be a really good spot for Keegan. Do I believe it's going to happen? That's another thing, but I think it's a decent number to get at. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really good number for a guy who's in form and kind of quietly plays shorter golf course as well. Like I mentioned, won the Travelers, played well at the Sony and nearly won the Sony a couple of years ago. Again, that's another coastal type of setup. So yeah, got to Keegan at 50-1. I thought that was too big of a number. But as we move down into this next range, Joey, we'll go 55. We'll go 55 to 70 and under. We got Mav McNeely, Taylor Pendrith at 55, Connors, Grazerman, Henley, Hollywood Henley. The models love him. Will Zalatoris, and your boy Wyndham Clark at 60-1. Man, like he and Tommy should have flipped odds. Wyndham Clark should be 33-1. Tommy Fleetwood should be 60-1. Still feels like too big of a number and a disrespectful number to Wyndham. I thought about him. And then you got Shane Lowry at 65, Tom Kim at 66, and Robert McIntyre at 66. You got any bets or interest in this range at all?
A ton of interest in this range.
Let's hear it.
So first of all, Wyndham Clark is the Windy City Flyer. Love that dude for that 80-1 and the other hit that he had too. I mean,
he's treated you nicely.
He has. And you know what? You said it. He has more pedigree than Never Tommy at this point. Like, I don't understand where they get these numbers at sometimes. Like, it's kind of mind-boggling.
I think somehow I think people hate Wyndham Clark. It's the only explanation I can come to is like people hate Wyndham Clark and don't like betting him, so he's not popular. It's like the only reasoning I could think of. How does he have the same number as Russell Henley?
I don't think.
How does Taylor Pendrith have a lower number than Wyndham Clark, who won a U.S. Open and won this event, both in the state of California? Yep. Like, what are we talking about?
Because no, you make a great point there, because they will move numbers around based on how often and how much money is getting put down on them. So if there's a lot less money getting put on Wyndham Clark, first of all, that makes me feel a whole hell of a lot better about betting him every time I want to bet him, because I mean, it's just, if you believe in, well, there could be some weird, the chalk stuff and all that, and how many tips people are giving out there for gambling advice. Then yeah, like Wyndham Clark, it's not like he's flying under the radar as far as like analysis goes. Like, people are on him in different sections, but I think, I mean, he's just got what it takes to be good here too. Like, there's certain things I look at, third in strokes gained putting on POA over the last 36 rounds. Like, he could absolutely do it again. So I'm considering that. I haven't done it yet, but I think 55-1 is still a pretty fair number to get at. And if there's
a 60 out there.
Oh, if there's a 60 out there, then
it's ridiculous.
It's not a big difference from the last time. So I absolutely, which by the way, when he won later in that week, Devin Hester was announced Hall of Fame. So like the Windy City Flyer thing rings true for Mr. Wyndham Clark. But
love it.
I'll just I'm gonna hold on to that. I might bet him. The other guy I was pretty interested in here, and my model just absolutely loves this guy this week.
Russell Henley?
No. not the real. That's every week. Not the real models love him, like where he's popping out of the limousines with like two girls, one on each side of his arm. But
don't forget the doves. The doves are flying out of that fucking limo. Russell Henley, and there's paparazzi snapping pictures of him. Like, he's fucking big time.
Dude, he's just a baller. Like,
that's the way the models treat him.
Russell Henley's just a baller. If you find him,
I'll tell him. If I stumble into him, I'll call him Hollywood Henley.
I think that's, yeah. We need a picture with him too. Like, I'm getting an autograph with Hollywood. I don't even ask people for autographs really at all. Like,
I'm gonna go out of my way the next tour event I go to stumble upon Russell Henley.
You need to, and definitely like get him talking into the camera too. Like, get him talking about how, like, who he pulled up with today.
I'm going to ask him if he's a big stat guy and if he loves just like refreshing his models and seeing his name at the top every week. Is that like his golf porn? He's just refreshing the Rick Rungood model every week and seeing himself at top and be like,
I wonder,
life sure is sweet up here. The big city.
Does he go into every tournament thinking like, how well can I play this week without actually fucking winning?
He's probably like, these fuckers really think I have a chance, huh?
Yeah. And he's like, meanwhile, he's like half hungover.
They have no idea I'm going to shit down my leg on Sunday.
But anyway, so I'm not getting to Henley for sure. Shane Lowry. So
okay.
Lowry's fourth behind Scheffler, Thomas, Morikawa in my model this week.
Good group.
Which is a pretty damn good group, which was surprising to me, if I'm being honest. Like, it wasn't somebody who I looked at and I was like, you take that glance of the names that are in the tournament and you're like, oh, maybe him. Like, well, that's a decent number. It is a good number, 60-1. But then I started looking into Lowry too here and what the numbers were showing over the last 24 rounds, 13th off the tee, which, off the tee is not something we're not looking for distance this week, but off the tee, 5th in approach, 9th around the green, 2nd tee to green, 14th in bogey avoidance, fifth in strokes gained par 4 from that 350 to 400 yards range. And he's been good from the 100 to 150 yard ranges and generally does well on short courses too. So a lot of things kind of lined up. And of course, being coastal, I don't think that hurts him at all either. So
Definitely not.
I'm probably getting to Mr. Shane Lowry at 60 to 1. And it's kind of the same situation where I look at where, I said that about Keegan. Do I believe he's going to? No, but it makes a lot of sense. Do I believe Shane Lowry's going to win? No, but I'm just kind of betting what I'm looking at.
His irons have been so good.
They've been excellent, man.
So good. The problem is they're all like T13s and T12s. He's not doing anything with it. And on the DP World Tour is my problem.
And he needs to, I don't know if he's going to be able to putt well enough.
I do not trust him over a 6 foot. Not at all.
I think that's
maybe
where
on Thursday, not on the weekend.
He needs to get hot with the putter. If he gets hot with the putter, but on Sundays, or like you said, over the weekend, can that come to fruition? I'm not sure. I don't know if I see it, but I am going to bet it. Robert McIntyre, I actually thought was pretty interesting too.
Agreed.
And of course, the one that I am going to bet here in this range too, outside of Shane Lowry, and probably Wyndham too, is here. Just lost my train of thought. Mr. Hoagie Buns.
Yeah.
I have to. He's 80 to 1. He's almost perfectly suited for this place. You talk about irons, you talk about the wedge play. Like, this is somebody who it definitely makes sense for him. He's 6th in my model. He's got a win here already. So, I mean, I think 80 to 1 or not. He was 90 to 1, but I saw 80 to 1 most recently. I don't know if he's number 1 in strokes gained per shot from the fairway from 100 to 150 yards over the past 12 months. So this is a guy that absolutely can do well here. And I'm going to bet the number. So even though we were talking about the 70 to 1 kind of cutoff there, 80 to 1, man. Yeah, look at that number, and I feel like that's definitely something we're going to have to jump on. I don't know if you are, but that's where my head is with Hoagie.
Yeah, I thought about Hoagie and McIntyre. I probably thought about McIntyre a little bit more. Irons have been excellent as well. Doesn't have a ton of familiarity on the West Coast. His putter is so weird. I swear, he's like, who was I comparing it to? It's like Keegan. He either gains, 2 or 3 strokes, or he loses like 11. It's like, Jesus Christ. Like, if he has one bad rounds on the green, it's like he almost quits. But the rest of his game is really good. Plays well in the wind. Won the Scottish Open, won the Canadian Open as well.
Yeah.
So, like, those coastal,
he grew up on these kind of courses, like
links style tracks. Like, it is right up Robert McIntyre's alley. And like, if you look at his finishes, like going back to his win at the Genesis Scottish Open, he's got a first, T7, T17, T5, T12, T25, T19, 7, T15, T17. Like, he's been posting a lot of high-end finishes and could be closing in on something. So I did think about Robert McIntyre. Didn't think as much about Tom Hoagie, but what I will say is, looking at a stat profile, I'm liking what I see. The wedges, we know Tom Hoagie, Mr. Hoagie Buns, just absolutely crushes the wedges. And the putting has been really good for him. He's gained over a stroke in all 3 starts to kick off 2025 after being like an absolute nightmare on the greens to end last year. So, and you referenced the course history, not even just the win, but Hoagie's also got a 6th. He finished T6 here last year through 3 rounds, finished 12th the year before getting his victory. So definitely reasons to be high on both of those guys, quite honestly. Robert McIntyre and Tom Hoagie. I think there's good things from both of those guys, and I gave them a pretty decent thought.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends how you want to attack it too, because like I tend to not think that somebody's going to repeat very often, like because he's won this before, but at the same time, why wouldn't he then? It's
his type of jam. Like, wedges, driving doesn't matter. Just hit it in the fairway. I could see it with Tom Hoagie. A lot of people have seen it too. Yeah. He's very, very popular this week, so I certainly understand it.
I hate that.
Yeah, it's the way the game goes sometimes. Looking at this next range, though, I did want to talk through some guys. I know you mentioned you have Hoagie at that 80-1 number. There's a lot of interesting names here. Adam Scott, 70. Bo Haas, 70. Our boy. Sepp Straka, the septic tank at 70. Denny McBuckets at 75. Sahith at 75. Akshay at 80. Harris English, who won last week at 80. Spieth is at 80 as well, making his season debut, and he's got a really strong course history here. Nick Taylor, another guy who's won on this golf course and won a couple of weeks ago, he's at 80-1. If you don't know Rasmus Højgaard, like, get familiar. He is an absolute stripe show from on the DP World Tour. He's 80-1. Tony Finau's 80-1. Like, this is a range where there's a lot of intrigue and a lot of big numbers for guys who certainly could take this tournament down. Do you have any bets in this range? I don't. My last bet that I have is over 100-1. There are a lot of interesting names at big prices in this range, Joey. Do you have anyone besides Hoagie, or was it just Hoagie for you?
No, I do have one other here. Well, first of all, Tony Finau, that's a crazy number.
Crazy number.
Like, I don't care where we're at.
I don't know if he's serious, though.
I don't either. But in Sahith, we usually never see Sahith way down this range.
That number was begging me to bet it. Begging me. Like, on its knees, hands in the air, like, bet me, Jack. Bet me. I'm a sucker for Sahith. And Akshay, too. Like, those are great numbers.
Akshay's a great number as well. Another one of these guys I don't actually think is going to win, but I just felt like there was a lot that I thought could make sense here. And it's Thomas Dietrich at 90-1. This is a crazy
Never change. No. I just didn't see that coming. It's really not a bad play. I'm laughing because it's so you. And like Jason Day and Dietrich on the same card is like
same card. Oh, this is a Joey card for sure. This is I can't get away from myself sometimes.
I don't know genuinely. I don't know if I love anyone more on the PGA Tour than Tommy Dietz. I
just hate him on Sundays.
He is such an anomaly. And dude, Sundays have just never been Tommy Dietz's day. There might not be a bigger drive and putt guy on the PGA Tour. I don't know if Tommy Dietz does anything in between well. His irons are like, he loses every week, but somehow is like first round leader and is mixing over the weekend. But his stat profile is literally like, he's such an anomaly. I don't know how he has high. Yeah, he just putts and drives the shit out of the golf ball, dude.
Yeah, no, that's his whole thing, man. He's first in strokes game putting on POA over the last 24 rounds. Like, that's his. It doesn't matter if it's on POA or not. But
did you know our boy Tommy Dietz is a Fighting Illini, by the way?
I did not.
He's a University of Illinois boy, straight out of Belgium. To
Wow.
U of I. I'm sure Champaign was a quick slap in the face, like, why the fuck did I come here? I could have stayed in Belgium. Why am I in Champaign-Urbana?
I don't know. That's probably why he had to get the hell out of there as soon as possible.
Shout out Tommy Dietz. Here's my theory why Tommy Dietz is bad on Sunday. He was at U of I. He watched the Bears for those 4 years while he was there, and they were dog shit every Sunday, and it rubbed off on Tommy Dietz.
Just learned how to shit down his leg on Sundays like the Bears. I hope that's really not the case, because that means he's never going to win.
Just bet him first round leader. Every time you want to bet Tommy Dietz, I think you should just bet him first round leader. But don't let me stop you from betting him this week. He's your boy.
I think you're right, and I will say too, first of all, shout out for your call last week. What was forget who it was.
Oh my God, we have to talk about this.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it at all. I meant to bring this up earlier.
I forgot about it too. Aldrich Pothater. Everyone thinks it's Potgeeter. I've seen a shout out Byron Lindeque. I don't know if you're familiar with any of his content, but he's a South African golf content creator, and he gave everyone the rundown on how to pronounce this. Because, South Africans, they got wonky spelling. They got some wonky names, a la Christian Bezuidenhout, a la Dricus du Plessis in the UFC. It is Pothater, I believe. Like, you say it like an angry German. Pothater. Aldrich Pothater. We said it. Absolutely nukes the fucking ball off the tee. Almost cashed first round leader. I didn't have it, but that would have been incredible. I know there were tons of people out there who had him in the top 10 at 20-1, which was a bet we did shout out on the show. Sadly / fortunately, I don't think either of us actually took it. And if we did, we would have gotten our hearts broken, because Potts, I think, shot 80 on Sunday to fall out of the top 10 in that final pairing. I think the moment was just a little bit too much for him, but we set it to a T. Potts is absolutely going to fucking nuke driver around that golf course, and he's going to have some crazy wedges into these greens while these guys are hitting like 5 irons. And the 12th or the 13th hole, I forget which one it is at Torrey Pines. It's notoriously the hardest course, the hardest hole on the course. He jarred it from like 180 yards out of the rough, and he gained like 3 strokes to the field on that one hole alone.
Jesus.
Like, Potts, what a week. Couldn't close it out, but great shout from the fellas right here at Golf on Tap.
With somebody, that's a name to watch though moving forward too.
Mexico
Yeah.
Open. He is going to unleash that bad boy. It's going to be fun to watch.
I could see that. And
sorry,
especially,
didn't mean to steer the conversation off your boy Tommy Dietz.
I wanted to talk about this.
Okay, good.
No, that's because I mean that was an excellent call, and I was low key just upset at myself for not taking the first round leader or the top 10 at 20-1. But you know, probably for
we saved ourselves money actually in the long run.
We did, but like just knowing how close it was like, damn it.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was gonna happen. But no,
we're seeing things well.
Yeah, we're seeing it well here. I think Dietrich though, like the approach obviously just concerns the ever living shit out of me. But 23rd in strokes gained around the green as well over the last 24. So there's some things to like. Also, the success he had last year too.
Yeah. No Sunday. It was beautiful for him.
No Sunday, so that's why he couldn't. He actually led too for obviously at points of the tournament too. But the clutch factory round 4 is that's a very, very scary situation for Thomas Dietrich. I was actually looking at too. Data Golf has this thing called pressure. I think it's like pressure stat. So you could kind of look at by tournament how they did heading in, where they were at, and how they finished. Like round 4, how they performed round 4. And it kind of varies with Dietrich. Like I was actually looking at his above expectation numbers for round 4. And I was a little bit surprised with it didn't fit the narrative to a T of how we thought that he performs on Sundays. And I think it's because he's just kind of shit down his leg in some of the big moments where even we thought that he probably was going to win, maybe even. So I'm wondering if it's actually something that's going to stick with them for a career. I hope not. And that's why 90-1, I've already spent way too much time talking about Thomas Dietrich.
No, dude. I mean, honestly, if you want to bet it. Like Tommy Dietrich,
yeah.
he finished T4 at the PGA Championship last year. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Thomas Dietrich, like, I make jokes here. We both make jokes here because we're very familiar with Tommy Dietz and how it goes. His around the green he's actually gotten a lot better there. Looking at his numbers, he's not a 2-trick pony anymore. He's got the around the green going. If he gets those irons, man, and Sundays, Tommy Dietz could be better than Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, no, it's not 100% better than Scotty Scheffler. You threw me off with that last person. He's not going to be better than pretty much.
How does Tommy Dietz lose?
Top 10.
I don't hate it though. In all seriousness, like from down this board, he can light it up with the putter, man. And you're going to have to do that to win on this golf course.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I don't think it's going to happen, but
how crazy is it that Max Homa is the same number as Tommy Dietz?
He's fallen. We talk about off the wagon with JT. This guy is off the wagon.
It's bad.
I don't know when he's coming back.
His what I will say about Homa, as I pull up his stat profile here real quick, if I remember, the driver isn't an abject failure anymore, which was really the problem last year. I remember specifically, we broke it down. He lost over 9 strokes off the tee at the BMW Championship. And this is a guy who was like notoriously having the most perfect golf swing for the last couple of years. And he absolutely lost it with the driver. He has gained off the tee in 6 consecutive starts. So I like to see that, but there's just no consistency in the rest of his game. Like the irons are either good or abject failure. The putting, which is like usually Max's bread and butter, he can't make putts anymore. Like 90 is a good number, but how can you like think this guy's actually ready to win a golf tournament right now?
I don't. It would be that random like flick of the switch into stud mode, which he's capable of.
Yeah.
So if you're a guy that just like some people don't even look strategically at form, right? Like they don't look at recent form. They don't at all. They don't even factor it into the equation. They just look at names and numbers. And if you're just a guy that looks at names and numbers, him, Finau, Thagala, I mean, you could even put in like Poston, Straka, like, I mean, maybe not for this course, but Wyndham, like names and numbers, he's a guy that I would play. I mean, even obviously you got to you got to look at Jordan Spieth too.
You could make a sexy card from 50 to 100.
You could absolutely.
Like legit.
Yeah. Yeah, even past that 100 range, there's a couple of guys that like.
Yeah.
But the bomber range, but that 50 to 100 range is actually a pretty healthy looking.
Definitely is. But let's go ahead and cross that 100 plateau. I feel like we're here in the show, getting to the latter stages of it. Not going to go through all of these guys' names, but the bombs section, notorious on the show. Anyone over 100 to 1 catching your eye, or anyone that you're thinking about betting on the precipice, got questions about? Fire away, Mr. Joey Ricotta.
So let's see here. There was a name that I'm forgetting. Well, okay, so you've had a lot of love for Lee Hodges here lately, and like I think more so like on the difficult courses, right? Or like the main event type of fields, even too, like where he kind of pops up.
I could be wrong about that. He played well at the Sony Open.
The stats that you brought up though behind that, and like you backed up the data behind it. So I mean, but I do think he looks good for a place like this. Like that could be somewhere where, especially at the number, like I could see Lee Hodges toying around with the top 10, top 5, and being in the mix.
Bro, he actually finished T9 last week. I forgot he shot -2 in the final round to backdoor a T9, but that's like another one of those finishes that we're gonna like accumulate in that bag of long driver heavy golf courses where Lee Hodges finishes inside the top 15, and he gains strokes all across the board. He gains strokes in all major categories. Lee Hodges is going to win soon. I'm calling it.
He's going to win soon. I agree with you. I think there's too much there that's going for him at this point, and the fact that we're gonna end up looking at this and say, "Wow, look how many top 10s this guy has this year. Top 20s this guy has this year." And I think he's really gonna have a good year. This is a hell of a number, man. Like if you think this is the week, it very well could be. I could see it. So I don't think 150 is crazy. I haven't done it. Lucas Glover at 200 to 1.
Crazy.
That's a huge number.
Crazy number.
If we're looking into like the bomb range, especially like he's random. He's very random. I don't think it's ridiculous. He can win. He's some really good numbers showing too. He's 5th in my model this week. He's a random pop-up flare guy. Like 100%, he's that guy that just randomly pops up. But also, he gets hot in stretches. So I don't know if he's hot in a stretch right now, or like I haven't actually looked at his results, and so maybe I should have done that before we hopped on here. But as far as like the numbers go, I mean, he looking at the last 24 rounds, 6th in strokes gained tee to green, 4th in bogey avoidance, 2nd in driving accuracy, 16th in sand saves, 6th in scrambling. I mean, he's got a lot of things here, especially the you look at the bucket from 75 to 100 yards. He's 20th, 100 to 125 yards. He's 13th, 9th from 125 to 150. So I do not hate it at all. And also like the similar courses that I kind of pumped in this week. He's kind of like not top 10 or anything like that, but he's done pretty decently on some of those similar courses. So I don't think Lucas Glover is crazy at all. 200 to 1 is like, all right, I'll throw a $5 bill on it,
Yeah, bro, 100%, and he has legitimate winning upside. And Lucas Glover is doing what you think Lucas Glover would be doing. Hitting off his ball off the tee and finding every single fairway, hitting his wedges really well. It's just whether or not he can make enough putts. And he actually has gained strokes putting in 3 consecutive tournaments. So definitely reasons to be encouraged by Lucas Glover. He's got 2 career top 11 finishes here. It feels like, as it always does for him, it just comes down to the putter, whether or not he'll make enough putts. Because you know his wedge game and his irons are just going to be dialed. He is every single week.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Lee Hodges shout as well. I'm not going to end up getting there this week, and I will be absolutely heartbroken if Lee Hodges wins, as we just gassed him up and neither of us wind up tailing him. Guys I thought about in this range, I thought about Siwoo, 110 to 1. His irons just aren't even sharp right now, but this is a Siwoo course. He wins on these shorter setups, 110 to 1. Like, if we're talking about no recent form, just guys and numbers, Siwoo Kim 110 to 1 is a really good number. Mm-hmm. Didn't end up getting there. I think Nick Dunlap 125 to 1 is a really good number. Anytime you can bet Nick Dunlap over 100 to 1, like, I think you should probably do it because I think he's that talented. I don't know if he's actually ready to take down a signature event in this type of field on a course that he only has one tournament of experience on, and it was right after his world just changed last year and he became a professional. But that number is awesome for Nick Dunlap, and I wouldn't shame anyone for going and betting that bad boy. The guy I did end up on in this range though, Joey, is Mark Hubbard, 150 to 1.
Another one of your boys right there.
He is another one of my boys, but this event in particular has been circled on the calendar for like 365 days, Joey. Mark Hubbard last year finished T4 here, and he's got a special history with Pebble Beach. He proposed to his then girlfriend Megan here in 2015, and I know that's like not the rarest thing for golfers to do. We've seen like a handful of them do it at Pebble Beach over the years, but the course has treated him really nicely ever since, and he's incrementally improved his finish in every start since 2020. Finished T55 in 2021, T33 in 2022, T20 in 2023, and then T4 last year. Obviously, that was only through 3 rounds. We don't know how it was going to go on Sunday. And yeah, I know it's a lofty task to ask Mark Hubbard to take down a signature event. And quite honestly, the better way to bet it is probably like a top 10, top 5, top 20, or maybe even to take each way here. But that's not the way I go about things, and I thought 151 was a more than fair number. And he's been playing some pretty good golf to begin 2025. He finished T21 at the Sony Open to kick off his year, T12 at the American Express 2 weeks ago, where he was in the second to last group. I actually got a little angry at him because he was taking his sweet ass time, and it took forever for Sepp to get across the finish line and cash that ticket. I'm like, Mark Hubbard, hurry the fuck up. But he's going to have a chance for his redemption this week. Did finish T68 at the Farmers Insurance Open, but like that's not a golf course for Mark Hubbard. That's a golf course where you got to hit it long and straight, and that's not what Mark Hubbard does. He's a lot better on these accurate, shorter style of setups. That's where he's made his hay in his career. And looking at some of the numbers for Hubbard, 3rd in opportunities gained, 10th in good drives percentage, 11th from 125 to 150 yards, 12th in par 5s, 500 to 550, 14th in approach, 14th in par 4s, 350 to 400 as well over the past 12 rounds. So he's in good form with a lot of his game. And he's also got a really good track record, not only on Pebble Beach golf links in particular, where, as I referenced earlier in the show, 3 of the 4 rounds are going to be played, but he's also got a really solid putting history on those greens as well. So Hubbard's gained strokes. He's gained at least 2 strokes putting in his last 2 starts, and he's actually gained at least 2 strokes total on Pebble Beach golf links in his last 4 measured rounds there. So he rolls the rock really well on that course in particular, just plays well on that course in particular. I referenced 3 of the 4 going to be there. Mark Hubbard, 150 to 1. I've made a lot worse bets outside of 100 to 1 in golf tournaments, Joey.
No, I like it a lot. I mean, the only area where I would even have concerns about like him playing well, because I think he's going to play well here, but would be like around the green and scrambling. But I mean, like you said, I love that you mentioned that he's gotten progressively better here too.
Yeah.
And then being, and it might not matter his around the green as much because he's been so damn good with the irons. So yeah, he was, like you said, 4th last year, and then we don't know how that would have turned out final round. So I mean, I like it. I think 150 is great for Hubbard.
Yeah,
sure.
I thought that was a good number. 2 other guys I just wanted to shout out real quick. Kevin Yu. Let me see if I can pull him up real quick on this cheat sheet. I bet Kevin Yu last week. It did not go well. But Kevin Yu is literally 80th in the Rick Run Good cheat sheet, all the way at the bottom. I think he's the cheapest in DFS. Can't make a putt. Like, I do not trust him whatsoever to make a putt. But like top 10 or top 20 on Kevin Yu, I think should be a play. Dude, he's teed it up here twice. He finished T7 in his debut in 2023. He's gained at least 4.6 strokes with his irons in both starts, and he's gained at least 5.5 strokes ball striking on this golf course. So there's something about this golf course that Kevin Yu clearly likes. Don't think he can actually win, but there's probably a smart way to like utilize him and make money this week. And then I also don't hate Seamus Power from way down here as well. Guy who just
Coastal
hits his wedges, can make putts. These are guys who I don't think can win the golf tournament, but could finish like a Mark Hubbard T4 from last year. Like those are some shouts I'd give from the back end. Any other guys you wanted to bring up here before we wrap things up, my friend?
I don't know if this is a Johnny Vegas spot, but
He's striping.
I mean, 200-1 is kind of a crazy number, right? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, can he keep it low enough to compete here? I think he can, but I mean, 200-1 is just, it's a number. It'd be a number play, even though he is kind of striping it. Obviously,
he is striping it. His approach has been great. I would be worried about around the green. He's lost strokes around the green in 8 straight starts.
Yeah, you can't really be bad around the green, and yeah, I don't.
He even lost strokes around the green when he won at the 3M Open, but you don't really need a chip there, so he was fine.
Oh yeah, we completely wiped that from our our board that week.
Dude, what a win that was for you. Like, holy shit. Johnny Vegas at the fucking 3M Open. That is
I would have never guessed Vegas would have hit an outright for me ever, to be honest.
That is epic. That is one of my favorite outrights that we've accomplished on this show. That is hilarious.
It's still, I think that might have been one of my last ones though, towards the season last year. I don't remember when.
That's a late event. I think it's like the 3rd or 4th last event of the year. So no shame in that. We cashed Sepp Straka early on in the year. You're right on track, my man.
Straka, that's thanks to you though, because I did not do hardly any research that week. I just tailed you. I was like, oh yeah, Straka seems good. Like there was 2 guys I like picked out of your. I'm like, all right, yeah, I see that.
And who was the other one? It's one of your boys. Do you remember? It was Mr. Hoagie Buns.
Oh, it was Hoagie, wasn't it? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you love you some Hoagie.
I mean, I have to. Justin Rose is also a name to mention here, though, not to change the subject. I think, he's got the win here, too. 170-1 is like, I mean, you can't really count him out as like a random pop-up type of dude, too, especially on a course where he's had a lot of success on. So
it's the best number over 100-1. Best number over 100-1. Justin Rose, 170. Crazy number.
Do you think that, like, is that going to be a bet, even though you're doing probably Hubbard?
No, I'm out on Rose. I already have my card filled, and like I said, I'm already a little bit overexposed, so I'm not going to add anyone. But Justin Rose 171 is a really good number.
There's got to be like a free bet we can acquire from making a deposit somewhere or something, right? Like, this is.
I swear I never get them. I never get them.
I've been getting some lately, and maybe it's because I was having some terrible luck in some other sports, and so maybe they were just like feeling bad for me, like this guy's losing, let's give him something so he keeps playing. I'm like, little do they know I'm a fucking sucker. I'll be back in 2 weeks, motherfucker.
Yeah, right. Don't even matter. I'll be back.
And I'm taking you blind. No, I'm just playing. Hopefully though, this golf season, hopefully we can actually rob them blind. But I feel like overall though, man, we've been positive golf. Like every time like we do these shows, we don't hit an outright or anything like that. Like that's impossible. But over the course, golf is definitely one of my better sports overall as a bettor. And I'm someone who loves betting on anything and everything for the most part. I don't have a lot of luck in some sports, and I know that, and I'm still a sucker and will still put a $25 bill on a money line that I know has no chance of cashing. So it's like $25, or if you're investing whatever it is that you're investing for golf in this case, like I've lost a lot worse and the payouts are a lot better. So golf is like, anyone who doesn't bet golf, I feel like you should try to at least throw your hat in the mix, because you can make a lot of money. And it's not saying that we make a lot of money, but just on a weekly basis, like you got 4 days of, I don't have to bet anything else if you don't want to. That's amazing. The beautiful part about it.
I love 4 days on, 3 days off. It makes my week so much better. And then you got TGL coming on Monday and Tuesday. I got golf fucking 6 days of the week. I'm an absolute sicko, man. But no, golf is definitely my best sport. And so much so. And dude, just from since we started, Joey, and like just talking through this with you on the shows and learning more about golfers. We mentioned this last week too, just learning more about golfers and becoming more familiar with these golf courses, because we do this show year in and year out. Like we know what to expect. We know what players to look for. Big thing we mentioned last week, we know what guys we don't think can win whatsoever when we're looking at the golf board or the odds board. Yeah, and that's something that's really big. But I believe in my golf strategy in betting on golf so much so, dude, that I basically quit betting everything else. It's basically just golf. Dude, you want to hear crazy? I haven't bet on football in the playoffs.
Wow. Because I don't blame you at all. And that's
Football
someone who,
stinks. I hate
like,
betting on football.
I traditionally love betting on the NFL, and I'm traditionally, I'll say it, I'm usually really good in the NFL. Like, this year has been one of those years where I have not been as good as I nearly ever have been, and I was actually a little bit better with college this year, and that's traditionally my awful sport. And I wasn't great at college either this year. So it's like football was just didn't treat me well, and playoffs is usually like the time where, okay, you can gauge a little bit more about playing time, especially because you know they're going to use their, like Travis Kelce, terrible year for the most part, or down as far as numbers go, not terrible, but gets to the playoffs, you know he's going to be force fed. With golf, and that hasn't always, there's certain things about football that just have not transpired here in the playoffs too, like the Lions getting beat. I mean, I didn't see that happening. Like, I really didn't see that happening. So I actually went 0 for 2 last week. I fucking hate the Super Bowl, by the way. I know we're this is a golf show and golf betting show, but like, we get a 2023 rematch here or whatever, Super Bowl
I'm so
rematch.
not hyped for the Super Bowl at all. Like, I'm not kidding. This is gonna probably sound messed up, and I'll probably get flack for this, but low key, like, this postseason just hasn't done it for me. I've low key. I'm also a golf sicko, and we're getting to like the best parts of golf season is starting to come up. The weather is getting a little bit nicer outside. I'm getting the itch and swinging in my fucking living room like a junkie. Might sound messed up, man, but I've been ready for football to be over. Might sound messed up. I've been ready for football to be over.
Well, now I am 100%. I was ready. I shouldn't say I was ready. I wasn't ready for it to be over because I love football and I feel like the season is one of the shorter seasons compared to a lot of sports.
Yeah.
But I've been ready since the Bears went on that huge losing streak as far as that goes. It's like it just took away, it sucked the soul out of me as it always does. And then the only way that I can, like, Super Bowl, I definitely will have some bets for Super Bowl. You have to. I feel like it's a cardinal sin if you don't.
I'll have bets for the Super Bowl.
And the beautiful part is you always got to have, I feel like, at least one where you pair together the Waste Management and the Super Bowl winner or something, or the Super Bowl MVP or something. Like, pairing those together and just doing like a little parlay there. Dude, such a sexy payout. It's such a sexy payout. So
I'll be there. We'll definitely talk about it on the show next week. Hopefully with a little extra Skrilla heading into Super Bowl weekend as Jason Day cashes a ticket for both of us.
I'm gonna need it, man. I'm gonna need it for the amount of bets that I'm like in my head already putting together.
Let's get it done this week, my man. Come on the show next week. High vibes for the Waste Management Phoenix Open in the Super Bowl. And man, I talked about this last week with you. Final thing I'll say, I know we're almost at an hour and a half here. Getting the early season ticket cash, like, fuck yes, that was so nice. The last 2 years, and really, like, this is my third year betting golf week in and week out and doing it on a weekly basis. This was my first year that I've cashed a ticket. I think the first ticket I cashed last year was Jaeger at the Houston Open, which was 2 weeks before the Masters. So that was like mid to late March. The week prior, or the year prior to that, I don't think I cashed a ticket, and I couldn't even remember. It was a brutal start to the year for me. So to get one out of the way early, especially without Scotty Scheffler before he goes on this 3-week stretch that he's going to be playing in, got to feel like he's probably going to nab one of those bad boys. So to get one down early on in the season feels good. Hopefully we'll get another one this week, Joey.
Hell yeah, dude. It's the monkey off your back type of vibe, right? It's
1,000%.
Get the monkey off your back, and also, like, I don't know, I feel like you second guess a lot less. You know, when you have a really good idea, you put your work in, you put your thoughts to paper, or, you know, just written whatever it is, done this show, we talk through it, you think a lot less about your actual decisions. I feel like when you're in a slump, you overthink things and just start like, no, like, no second guessing. Pull the trigger. Let's see. Let's get an outright.
I promise nothing has been more true since I haven't learned anything more true since doing this week in and week out. When you're rolling, there is nothing that feels easier than making those decisions on the odds board. And when you're cold, it is tough to pick 5 to 6 guys in a 156-man field. You're like, holy fuck, how am I gonna get this thing down there? So yeah, lots of confidence, lots of good vibes early on in the year. Both of us riding together, cashing out, right? Let's hope that happens this week together with Jason Day, and we'll go buy that stupid fucking Malbon Mountain shirt of his.
I'll buy yours for you, because because you were the reason why this changed is how I'm going to feel in my head because you
and the septic tank. Just good vibes.
Yeah. Yeah. You get me a septic tank one and I'll get you a Jason Day one. How about that?
Sounds like a plan, my friend. I'm looking forward to talking about that next week. But to everyone who tuned in with us up until the very end, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate all your support. Reminder again, go and follow at OnTap Golf on X. That way you can catch us when we go live, and also follow Golf on Tap wherever you listen to your podcast. That way, if you're not able to join us live, you can still listen to all of the latest episodes. Go and subscribe to OnTap Sportsnet on YouTube as well. We're really trying to grow those subscriber numbers over there. That's the best way to show support. And check out OnTapSportsnet.com. We got Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox, updates and news, beer reviews, movie reviews, lots of golf stuff, of course. We got you covered over there at OnTap Sportsnet. So thank you again to everyone for tuning into this episode. Until next time, crack 'em.